I think you're muted, Dorsal.
Of course, we're going to start the meeting off with a fun step. Good afternoon. My name is Dorsal Plants, and I am one of the CoC co-chairs, and I want to welcome you all to the December 4th CoC board meeting. We're excited to have you all here. Just a quick reminder before we get started, we do have somebody helping us with captions today. So please ensure that you try to speak a little slowly. I'll do that myself. And remember to introduce yourself when you begin speaking so that we can try and capture everyone. But yeah, we are excited to have everyone here, and I believe we are going to move. Oh, no, we need to do roll call first. And so, Alex, can you do the roll call, please?
Yes, happy to. Please say here if you are present. Patricia Sam.
Here.
Tamara Bauman.
Here.
TT White. Jean Floyd. Just make sure there's no other TVs. I'm not sure. Okay. Sorry, Bella Irons. Dorsal Plants.
Present.
Ruby Romero.
Present.
Martha Sassarosi. She's going to be a little bit late. Christina Sawicki. Do you think do you think that one of these attendees can make her?
Maybe she's a Michael Unverified or something like that.
It's the iPhone 257 according to the Q&A.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to click over allow to talk. Christina, is that you? Okay. I will mark Christina as present. I think that she might be having a hard time getting it off mute. Jaja Floyd.
Here.
Elizabeth Maupin.
Here.
Amy Thomas. Amaya Lenore.
Here.
Victor Liu.
Present.
So we have 9 members present, 4 members absent. Quorum is met.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex, and thank you everyone who is here. I believe moving on next, it is Victor who has volunteered to read the land acknowledgement.
Yes, I am. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Victor Liu. For this book context, I use he, him, his pronouns. So land acknowledgement. The King County Continuum of Care Board acknowledges that we work on the unceded traditional lands to the Coast Salish people, especially the first people of Seattle, the Duwamish people, the original stewards of the land, past and present. We honor with gratitude the land itself and the Duwamish tribe. This acknowledgement only becomes meaningful when combined with accountable relationships and informed actions, and is the first step in honoring the land that we today sit on and their people. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. And I believe Dr. Patricia Sam has volunteered to read the theory of change.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patricia Sam, CoC board member, reading our theory of change. It reads as follows. If we create a homeless response system that centers the voices of people with lived experience of homelessness, then we can focus on responding to the needs and eliminating inequities to end homelessness. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Patricia. All right. So I believe now we are moving on to the November 2024 meeting minutes. A motion would be in order if somebody wanted to move to adopt the minutes.
So move.
I have a motion by Jaja Floyd. Is there a second?
I second Dr. Sam.
Thank you. Alex, can you call the vote?
Yes, I can. Patricia Sam,
Accept.
Tamara Bauman,
Approve.
TT White, Jaja Floyd,
Accept.
Bella Irons, Dorsal Plants,
Approve.
Ruby Romero,
Approve.
Martha Sacerosi, Christina Salicki, Elizabeth Moppin,
Approve.
Amy Thomas, Amaya Lenore,
Approve.
Victor Liu.
Approve.
Motion, or sorry. The motion to approve the November CoC board meeting minutes is approved with eight votes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Alex. So we will move now into public comment. I do see that we have at least one person in public comment with their hand up, but before we call on them, Alex, did anyone submit any comments in writing?
No, I did not have any comments submitted.
Okay,
I will move.
thank you.
1 second, Mike. Starting public comment. Mike, I'm moving you to speak now.
Cool, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Awesome, great. I appreciate the time. I'm here to express concerns about the direction of our HUD mandated convenings and the broader implications for our homelessness response system today. These convenings are meant to be opportunities for the entire response system to self-organize, foster partnerships, and interconnect across sectors. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is a shift towards this checkboxing, checking the box approach, really. The convenings feel more like routine board meetings with minimal provider input and a lack of meaningful engagement. For many providers, observing these events simply isn't feasible due to time constraints, and without any added benefit, you're going to see reduced attendance from your membership. Membership votes are definitely taking place, but the collaborative spirit and planning input from those on the front lines who deeply understand the system's challenges are missing. And this issue reflects a much larger systemic problem. Institutions, once they're established, often become more focused on sustaining themselves than producing the outcomes they were created to achieve. And in this case, the result is a system that inadvertently perpetuates the status quo. It's not just a missed opportunity, it's a risk to the integrity of our coordinated response. Homelessness is a complex, urgent crisis that demands authentic collaboration and cooperation and not performative compliance. I really urge the board today to, assist the King County Regional Homeless Authority with recentering these convenings on their intended purpose, which is empowering providers and stakeholders to co-design solutions and truly interconnect. Let's prioritize meaningful engagement, be more transparent and more collaborative in problem solving to ensure we are building a system driven by outcomes and not just by institutional inertia. I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, Mike. Is there anyone else in the public that would like to speak? I don't see any other hands. All right, then we will move right along. Muting myself ahead of time. I'm just that excited. We are now moving on to the committee updates. We are asking the committee leads to do something slightly different because it is the end of the year. And so we're hoping that the committee chairs are able to provide kind of just a short explanation about the roles and responsibilities for the committee or work group, and also to share if there are any opportunities currently on that board either to join or form some collaborative efforts on the work that they're currently doing. And so I will turn it over to Ruby now to take over this piece.
Hi, thank you, Dorsal. This is Ruby. I use she, her pronouns. And or she, they pronouns. And I am here to give a brief update on the System Performance Committee. We did not have a meeting in November. It was the same day as our convening. And as we know, the bomb cyclone was, impacting a lot of travel and a lot of internet connections, a lot of lights and everything like that. So we weren't able to actually execute that meeting. So we're going to be executing the same agenda with a couple added items to keep an eye out for. We're talking about our opportunity to provide comment to HUD on various on aspects that we would potentially like to see worked on in the HMIS program or part of the program. And then we're also going to be doing the co-chair elections finally that we've been talking about. One more time it was pushed back, but that's okay. We're excited to see some fresh faces in those seats. And so now that kind of brings us to what does the System Performance Committee do? So we focus on the oversight of the Homeless Management Information System, which is going to be a part of the Continuum of Care program that collects data, as many of you know. This is where we would do the demographics and the process that goes along with getting into housing, permanent housing, and services and everything like that. So what our performance committee does is we focus on the standards and what our expectations are for our local continuum. And also we do the monitoring of what our what the requirements are for our local area. And then also just like how we do our policies and procedures. We also vote on the PIT count, or we also help with planning in the PIT count, which we are not doing the unsheltered count. We're doing the sheltered count this year. So that's all in HMIS data that we get. So for our committee, we have 2 seats still open. And so if anybody's interested in the metrics and developing metrics surrounding the homelessness in Seattle, King County, then we would encourage you to apply. We would also encourage those who have used HMIS and maybe those who have experienced being in HMIS, living and lived experience. People are definitely encouraged to apply. And so we could find those applications on the System Performance Committee page, which is going to be under the Continuum of Care Board page on the kcrha.org. And I wanted to turn it over to Tamara to speak more about the well-being metrics that she's been working on in tandem with the System Performance Committee, just to give a brief update on that, and then we can move to the next one. Thank you.
Yes, I'm very excited about this because I'm not sure of how many of you know, but I was at the Lived Experience Leadership Conference sometime in November, and that was really transformative and inspiring, and it makes me even more committed to developing well-being centered metrics that are designed to flip the script on how business is done here in King County regarding the homeless response system. So I'm trying to solicit, I'm trying to actually invite everyone with lived and living experience, service providers who may also have lived experience, to join me in identifying what we want to see measured across the system. Because ultimately I want to use those metrics to transform our policies, how we legislate, what our programs actually deliver to the community. I want the community to have the power in setting those priorities and removing as much as possible folks in traditional positional authority. Yeah. So I want to innovate, and I think this is a really good opportunity to do that and to shift how we do the work, especially knowing what's going to come in the next 4 years. I really want to get a jump start on this now, and there's no time to wait. And I am working on a personal grant application that I hope will support this project that I'm working on, and support this community defined, co-designed project that I hope to contribute some funds to this effort. So if you're interested in exploring the Wellbeing Blueprint designed by Full Frame Initiative and the Wellbeing Framework, which I know inside and out, please join me. I need your input. I need your perspective, for systems transformation.
Great, thank you, Tamara. Yeah, and I just wanted to, sorry, I forgot to give a little bit more context about the System Performance Committee. So it's we also have a staff member that works with us closely. We work close with the community impact team, and that's going to be Daniel Ramos, who works really closely with us, and he also is a really, like, he's genuinely committed to the work that he's doing, and I really value his input, and I truly believe that he values ours as well. So he's a good ally to have, and I would encourage anybody that is interested again in the metrics and in how we collect data to apply to the System Performance Committee. We also have the cross-cutting work group, and currently we're not we don't have any like technically open seats right now. We do have the ability to go to 12, I believe, and we have about 8 or 9, but we're not currently accepting applications now, just unless it is like we're allowed to reach out to specific people and have them join if we're doing a specific policy in another area. So it's like guest seats, if you will, to do the cross-cutting work. So, but the cross-cutting policy work group doesn't have much of an update, except for we're still working on community standards, the reviewing of those documents, and making sure that we get those up to date in time for, hopefully the new year. That's ambitious, but, by by the end of Q1, definitely. And then I guess, so I know coordinated entry is going to be giving an update, but I think that might be closer to when Tom Regan is here, giving his part of the update on the agenda. If that's okay.
Excellent. I do just want to pause there and see if there's any questions for Ruby or Tamara about systems performance of the cross-cutting policy. All right. Well, I think I know at least the YAB is here. So if the YAB is ready, yes, we'll move to the YAB.
Of course. Hey, hi everyone. My name is Trey Vaughn, and I'm here to bring part of our Youth Action Board update. So when we're talking about roles and responsibilities of the Youth Action Board, the role of the YAB is to represent all youth homelessness in King County when it comes to allocating CoC dollars, right? So when there's a decision on how the continuum of care is going to be spending money on youth and young adult homelessness, the Youth Action Board provides a letter of support and guidance to make sure that it's fitting the needs of youth and young adults experiencing homelessness in King County. So we that's going to be our role and responsibility. It's really to make sure we're engaging with youth and young adults and understanding what's happening in, services that they're, experiencing, making sure that we know what's going on so that when we have an opportunity to speak on their behalf, we're able to give their insight, not only give their insight, but hopefully invite them to the table as well so that they can speak for them, themselves. So that is really nuts and bolts what the Youth Action Board's role and responsibility is. They're also, working really hard to bring not only youth and young adults to the CoC, but, just youth and young adult service providers as well. I think that's going to be our main focus for the Youth Action Board and what we can do in terms of bringing our community to the CoC board or just the CoC. And one example of that, of course, would have been our youth and young adult convening, which we held November 22nd, where the Youth Action Board members, went to different drop-in centers and got those stories from the youth and young adults. We also had an opportunity to talk with youth and young adult service providers to collaborate with them and, get their ideas on what would be the most impactful way to engage youth and young adults and getting them to the convening. The purpose of that event, which happened on the 24th, which was a CoC convening, was to bring the CoC, youth and young adult community, to the CoC. And that, you know, not only did the YAB work really hard and collaborate and plan the whole event, but they took their wisdom and brought it to the CoC YYA community so that we can have an event that encompass, you know, not only, of course, the RHA, but, you know, the Youth Action Board and other youth and young adults experiencing lived experience, experiencing homelessness, my apologies, right? And youth and young adult service providers. I think that was probably the, sorry, I know I'm kind of going on a tangent a little bit, sorry. I hope we have a little bit of time for this, but like really excited about the event that we had a few weeks ago. And I really thought the Youth Action Board did a great job of bringing the YYA community together and at least engaging them for our first event. And we're looking forward to our next convening where we're going to have, you know, even more time to engage with youth and young adults and youth and young adult service providers to have a effective and, you know, empowering event. So right now the Youth Action Board is really focused on just decompressing. After that, you know, they put a lot of work into that convening. You know, we do have open seats. The Youth Action Board is working on their policy on how they, you know, engage with youth and young adults, you know, making sure they're a good fit for the board, right? Do they have that lived experience of homelessness, right? Do they, you know, do they have that experience in King County? Or, you know, we do have spots for individuals who are people of color, right? So, you know, we are making sure that they're going to be a good fit for the board, and they are putting together their, you know, their policy, their way of recruiting and adding members to the board. Yeah, with that being said, you know, the Youth Action Board has a newsletter that they're working on. They also just finished their second episode of their podcast, which you guys can all check out on our YouTube channel, yab.cast, or just yabcast, I believe. Is yabcast? Looking at you, Maya.
Maya, you want to put that in the chat?
Yeah, please. I think it's just Yapcast. You can check out their newsletter, and then lastly, their PB&J initiative, which is another project that, you know, we have talked about in this meeting in the past, and is another example of how the Youth Action Board is engaging with youth and young adults and service providers to, you know, find the best way, find the best way to roll out a program, right? So the Youth Action Board are a board of youth and young adults experiencing homelessness, right? Or who have had experience with homelessness. My apologies as I you know, explain this. Even though they have the lived experience of homelessness and know what they're talking about, they are still reaching out to youth and young adults to make sure they are on the mark. Does that make sense? So, you know, obviously they could make a great program on their own, but they, in their wisdom, they have decided to continue to develop the program and get more feedback from youth and young adults, which I thought is really powerful and a great example to, you know, people who are designing programs and coordinating programs on how they should be rolling out their own projects, right? Making sure that it's actually going to fit a need in the community by talking to the people who are experiencing, you know, the problem they're trying to fix. With that being said, I don't know if there's anything Maya would add on what the Youth Action Board is working on. I think that was pretty good.
Do we have any time? I can definitely speak a little bit on that.
Of course.
We have time.
We are really just working to move forward with our newsletter and our podcast, as Trey said. We really feel like they're dual purpose for both service providers and for youth in need of resources. For instance, our podcast, we always have a highlighted resource, and it's very useful for youth who are looking for resources, but also useful for service providers to know what kind of resources the youth are in need of and what they're actually accessing. You know, some funding might come in, and maybe an organization is looking to fund a new program, and our highlighted resources are always a good thing to check out if there is some extra money for program funding. I think it's really important to also acknowledge that we interview people. We went to the Auburn YMCA, their drop-in center there, and we interviewed people and asked them about how they liked the resources there, about was it easy to access for them. And I think that that feedback is also really useful, both for, as I said, service providers and youth in need of resources. We also gave them a little bit of a breakdown on what kind of information they might collect on youth, you know, so the youth feel comfortable and they know that information isn't necessarily being used in a way that can harm them. And that's mostly what we're just focusing on is our also that in our social media as well. We're trying to flesh out our social media a little bit more. Me and Tavy, the two co-chairs, we're kind of working on a plan of what we want to do next with our social media. We're probably going to be introducing the rest of our YAB members. Hopefully once we get some more people on our board. As Trey said, we're still kind of figuring out how we recruit people, what is the process like, how can we vote them in, how do we make sure they're the right fit, properly vetting people just to make sure, you know, that they're here to do work, that, you know, this, you have to show up to actually get stuff done. So we're just trying to make sure that we have the right people on our team to get that done. Yeah, that's what I have off the top of my head, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
I do have one more thing to add to the Youth Action Board has been approached by different organizations to help develop youth action boards. These organizations might not have a youth action board already or currently have a board or a committee of young people. So we're going to be, you know, connecting with those young people and, you know, the people running those boards and giving our opinions on how to create a strong board or committee of young people, efficient board, one that is healthy. And then, yeah, so that's really what the YAB is working on. They're working on a document, which is basically all of the ideas of the Youth Action Board. Which are all the ideas of the board members on like how to create and maintain a healthy youth action board, which I thought was really powerful. There are 3 organizations that have reached out to the YAB, and we're going to be, you know, meeting with them here probably in the first quarter of the year.
Thank you.
Awesome. I do want to flag just, I don't know if you can see Trayvon, but there is I think a feedback comment in the Q&A for the YAB, and then Tamara has her hand up. You want to go ahead, Tamara?
Oh, sure. Sorry, I wasn't. Sorry. Yeah, I actually was just curious if you all were partnering with Washington Thriving, and it's doing like a deep dive into youth, the behavioral health needs of youth and young adults, and it's statewide, like
Right.
listening sessions and trying to get the feedback and insight of youth to shape the legislation for Washington State's behavioral health system. Specifically for that subpopulation. Are you guys affiliated with them?
So we're not affiliated with Strive to Thrive. I know the next, like what we would do with the Commerce Department, because I believe that's what that program is out of, is connect with the Balance of State, which are all the Balance of State Youth Action Board, and just connect with them. But I don't think we're going to connect with one of their programs. We just want to connect with the coordinator of the Balance of State YAB, and then collaborate. We're also collaborating with other boards that have young people, like I was saying. So we're kind of focused on King County right now and in developing a strong youth and young adult community. Sorry, I was just wanted to, I saw the I don't see the question. Can you say, I just gotta read it. I'm sorry, because I saw your needs. I just want to read it. I need to read it. I got a visual person. The question, sorry. In the Q&A.
You can also answer that in the
Oh,
parking lot.
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
Yeah.
you don't have to answer that.
Wanted to make sure you knew that there was a question there for the.
I did capture the ones in the Q&A right now and put them in the parking lot for us to answer in the next meeting.
Yeah, I hope that answered your question, Tamara.
Oh yeah, I think we might be talking about two separate things because Washington Thriving is through the Division of Behavioral Health and I think Commerce too. They're doing listening sessions and developing a statewide strategic plan for behavioral health needs, specifically for youth who have always typically been marginalized and excluded from the conversations around policy development and legislation and all the things that kind of define our communities. Yeah, I'd love to see that, like the weaving of our systems together, specifically and especially and intentionally to support folks who have been silenced by the systems. But yeah, but I can send you that website if you want.
Yeah, I saw your hand. Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you. We'd appreciate that. Sorry, I might have misunderstood your question, but that sounds great. Thank you.
And
Yeah, hi.
unless-
Go.
Go,
Sorry. No,
go
is there
ahead.
somebody else with their hand up?
Amaya,
Okay,
go
go
ahead.
ahead. My apologies.
No, sorry, I accidentally raised my hand. I'm okay.
Even better. I appreciate that. I'm just kidding. Yeah, well, thank you. I just wanted to speak about the convening. I was able to attend and it was an amazing setup. They had great food. I really felt like it was one of the most like unified like situations that I've been in a really long time. You know, I was really feeling inspired by the artists that were there that are members of the YAB. Like I want to highlight that we have some really talented people and really talented youth in this county, but especially on the YAB. I was really impressed. And I just, you know, I think that I look forward to the partnerships that we're going to build in the next year because, you know, I think we've really been strengthening our partnerships this year. And I'm glad that we've been able to do that because it's really inspiring to see you guys do the PB&J. I love that little program that you're doing there. Or it's not a little program, it's a big program. And I really love it. And so I just thank you guys so much for the hard work that you've been doing this past year. It really shows.
Thank you.
I do have a question if no one else has any questions. Just gonna pause. Okay. So you mentioned one of your priorities for next year, and I think we're in alignment just with the different service populations, but you know, connecting with, you specifically called out the youth and young adult. And so I'm used to like, my program hat is on. And so like, that's a very specific term. Do you all also incorporate like family programs or programs that maybe aren't youth and young adult focused in like their funding name and their funding title, but they are serving children and young adults in the facility? Mary's Place would be one example that I would provide.
Well, that's a good question. I know that we just were Mary's Place just reached out to us to work with one of their committees. So I'm sure we can kind of start collaborating, you know, when we have our meeting. That's a good question. I mean, usually it's for single youth and young adults. I mean, you know, and then I would love to have more opportunities to, you know, connect, you know, youth and young adults who are like single parents or, yeah, I mean, I think that would, you know, would do a lot. I mean, to answer your question, yeah, we really focus on, you know, like single adults. We haven't really focused on like any family programs quite yet. You know, our main focus right now is, you know, making sure that we're fulfilling our CoC responsibilities, right? Knowing all the YHDP programs. I know we're going to have an opportunity to reallocate a program. So the YAB is going to be, you know, focused on reallocating YHDP programs. so I mean, like, with family, I don't think there's a lot of I mean, that I know of, right? There's not a lot of YHDP funds that are for family programs, which is, what the YAP is focused on, which, Youth Homelessness Demonstration Project. So I don't think there's a lot of family programs in there, but I would love to have the opportunity to, to use the wisdom of the YAB members in different programs. And I think that's what happens with, like, the NOFO and the rating. I don't think I know. So, and we're excited about that as well, being able to be a part of that process and bring other youth and young adults who, maybe have the background of, like, having a family and going through homelessness, who can, give their wisdom and experience. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, it was always interesting, especially working with families with teenagers, because the needs of the teenagers didn't always align with the parents. And
Right.
as the family provider, I have to side with the parents, arguably. And so it's like you try to balance it. I'm not like, but like, yeah, maybe in the future we can have more conversations about, because I'd love to find a way to kind of capture the needs of the teens that they're in family programs, but probably have some alignment with the population you're already supporting.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great idea.
Thank you for that update, and I'm sorry I missed your all's convening, but I see that Martha has joined us. So hello, Martha. Glad to have you here. And I apologize. Amy also joined. Thank you, Alex. I always forget one person. All right, I think that's everyone except for Tom. Am I correct in that, Ruby? I saw Alex nod, so I'll take a yes from Alex. Was that a yes?
Yeah, sorry, so this muted for a second. Tom is gonna be joining for the coordinator. He just had a meeting. He's getting out in 3 minutes. So he'll be hopping from that meeting directly into here to give us the live inventory presentation. And the coordinator update.
So unless anyone is opposed, we can add 2 minutes to our break and have everyone back by 2:45. All right. Thank you. See you at 2:45.
Hey, I do see it is 2:45, so I'm going to do a temperature check, see if everybody's back. Give us a few minutes to settle in. All right. I see the room. That's always a good sign. Thank you so much for those. That was nice. That break slide feels good to come back from. Thank you to Comms and to Alex for getting that on there for us for that captioner break that we do too. And that's also another reminder to identify ourselves before we are speaking for the rest of the meeting as well for the captioner. Last thing before we get on to our next agenda item, if Tom is on the call now, is that half the reason we wanted to do that committee update, and I didn't mention it, was, you know, because we wanted to encourage any board members who wanted to join as well, and those various committees and work groups. So if anybody would like to join those, you can email either Dorsal or I or Catherine. And the next thing is it is my pleasure to introduce our coordinated entry manager, Tom Regan. He really stepped up to the plate, so hopefully he's on the call. Is he on the call yet?
He'll be in the room in just a moment.
Oh, no worries.
He's walking in right now.
Well, drum roll, please.
Welcome,
There
Tom.
I was just talking about you, Tom. I was saying how excellent you've been doing, stepping up to the plate as the coordinated entry manager, and we're excited to get this overview of the live inventory count. Whenever you're ready, take your time, set up, and we appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, Ruby. Hi, everyone. Hello to those of you who are here in person and on Teams. It's nice to see everybody. This is exciting for me because technically this is the first time that I'll be, you know, presenting and meeting with all of you kind of in my new role and capacity. So thanks for having me. My name is Tom Regan. I use he, him pronouns. And like Ruby said, I'm the coordinated entry manager. I'm here today also with my colleague and teammate, Leah Sima Fahuri, who's our coordinated entry program coordinator. Ruby, I know you mentioned that you wanted to hear a little bit about live inventory in particular, but I have some other updates and just information to share with you all too, in addition to live inventory. Alex, do you have the slides that I sent to you and Lisa and Kim for this meeting to share?
I do. Let me pull those up really quick.
Yeah, that sounds great. I believe we got until 3:10, but I believe we're flexible too, so we got plenty of time.
I have them in front of me, but well, I have them in front of me if Microsoft will cooperate with me and let me open them in
Alex has them. No, something.
It says technical. I think you need to reshare it with me.
Oh, did we have the same thing happen as happens before? Sometimes we share things with comms and like if Kim moved it to a different folder, then neither of us can open it now.
Yeah. Can you not get yours up either?
Nope, that's probably why.
Okay, well, are you able to present without it?
No.
Would it,
I'm not even gonna lie,
Would
I need the slides in front of me.
could we, and Austin, let me know if we would have to do it technically or not, but could we swap the agenda items and give you more time to?
You know what, Dorsal, Catherine has them and we're going to, I will pull them up here in a second.
Are you able to find to?
You want to maybe give an update on the committee while we're waiting and they're trying to get that located?
Yeah, you know what I can do, Ruby, is I can answer the questions that you put out to us. About like the committee work. And so I can kind of lead with that. So as you all know, you know, one of our subcommittees of the CoC is the Coordinated Entry Committee to kind of be the policy lead for, you know, the coordinated entry system. And so that group has been meeting and, you know, working together now for 13 months. I believe that they were first convened November of last year. A couple of the members of that committee, like Jaja, who's here with us, are, you know, also members of the CoC board. So they've been kind of meeting with and working with that committee even actually before I started to take lead on it. And so to kind of provide some updates, and then in the information, Ruby, that you were looking for is, so it's the Coordinated Entry Committee, and we meet on the 4th Thursday of every month. So it's usually the last Thursday of the month. And all of our meetings also take place on Zoom. So they're all, you know, virtual meetings. We post the meeting links on, you can get to them from the KCRHA CoC website. Underneath where it has the information about the CoC board, there's information about the Coordinated Entry Committee. And so each month, Alex and I work to post our meeting agendas and also the public links for those meetings. Right now, there are no open seats on the Coordinated Entry Committee. Our charters and bylaws say to have 13 members, and we have 13 at this moment in time. The member expectations and time commitment and requirements are, you know, we expect the members to attend the meetings every month. We expect the members to attend, you know, prepared to talk about the topics that we're going to be covering. Right now, what we're working on is working to develop a strategic plan for 2025, the policy goals, and really kind of shore up our collective vision, our values, you know, how we want to envision the coordinated entry system here to look like and function, and then kind of articulate, you know, a policy vision from there and a strategic plan to identify, you know, what are the goals and the different projects that the group wants to work on through 2025. And so the expectations would just be that members are, you know, attending and coming prepared to discuss those types of things. The time commitment, the meetings, over the summertime, when we were kind of like interim without a manager on the coordinated entry team, meetings were a little bit shorter because the business flow was a little bit more on the light end. Of course, with no, you know, committed coordinated entry team leader, could be difficult to really develop and shore in on a, you know, serious vision and plan of what to do. But now we're moving back to 2-hour meetings monthly, as we anticipate the amount of business we're wanting to do to increase. You know, we want that time that we're able to spend together monthly to be a little bit more robust, so that we can actually, you know, roll up our sleeves and begin working on things together. And then, you know, I would actually defer to like Alex or Catherine with information about exactly like how to apply to become a member of the coordinated entry committee, because that's not really something that I've ever kind of had to oversee so far, like in my role. But I know that there are others both in this space and also like on our team who'd be well equipped to help like prepare in that type of process. And so, yeah, so that's some of the information I think you all were hoping to hear a little bit more about the coordinated entry committee. Are there any questions about that, or?
And for when we do have open seats on the coordinated entry committee, we will create a process and put out notification.
Okay.
Only when there's open seats coming available.
Yeah, and sorry, I just wanted to know, so we can attend the meetings and watch as the public, correct?
Yes, yep, and those, yeah, Ruby, great question. that's where it's similar for like both CoC board and system performance committee meetings. When you're on the website and you go to the CoC page of our website, there's the big, huge tab with information and links about the CoC meetings. And then underneath, you'll see coordinated entry committee as well as system performance committee. When you click on the coordinated entry committee meeting page, it brings up all of our, our next scheduled meeting there with a public link and agenda.
Great, thank you. Is there any other questions? I don't think I see any hands.
There's a question and public comment. Mike D just asked, it does not appear like a public comment portion has been on the agenda for that committee in the past. Is that because public comments just welcome throughout the meeting?
Yeah, my understanding is that since it's a committee meeting and not a board meeting, that it's not a meeting that's, required to have a public comment section. The meeting itself is kind of like, the convening of the community partners to do, specifically tailored kind of policy work rather than a board style, meeting.
Would it be better for somebody interested in making public comment for your committee to make it here and then us to filter it down to the committee there?
I think so. I think that would make sense. Yeah. If folks have concerns or feedback that they want to elevate through public comment, then they could do so, to the CoC. And then when we're having members of the CoC attend the coordinated entry committee meetings, I just asked like Jaja and Patricia, when you come to the CEC meetings to please, bring those to the committee so that we can, incorporate that feedback, concerns, comments, what have you, to our business, Alex.
And they can also email the CoC email address, which I will put in the chat here. I can't remember off the top of my head. And that way staff can filter questions to where they need to go as well. Another way to contact and reach out to them.
Thank you. Alex, can you put that in the public Q&A too?
Yes.
Because the public can't see our chat.
Yes, I will do that. Yeah, I'm going to share my screen though for Tom's presentation, and I will put that on a note to do.
It's coc.questions@kcrha.org.
Are you all able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Sweet. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so I already introduced myself a little bit. I introduced Leah. We're here, so you know that we're presenting on coordinated entry. Alex, feel free to go to the next slide, please. So a quick agenda of what I wanted to talk with you all about today and the updates I wanted to provide. So really fast, we'll go through a review of some current coordinated entry operations and our team. After that, we'll talk a little bit about the access and engagement work group that we've convened and are starting to work on here internally at KCRHA. I'll give you another, I just kind of provided a little overview of the coordinated entry committee, but we'll have another slide about that as well. And then last, I'd like to talk with you all about our community engagement plans and initiatives going into 2025. And we'll have some time for questions. So next slide, please. So just a real quick kind of high level review of the coordinated entry system here in Seattle and King County. We operate largely through different subpopulations: single adult, youth and young adult, family, veterans, and some special system connected subpopulations like the true blood subpopulation. And so, all of those, we have specialists working with all those different subpopulations to do kind of like resource matching, service matching, referral and placement. we are still continuing to do all of this work on a daily basis in the single adult, youth and young adult and family spaces. So there's daily case conferencing and office hours that's taking place. And our team is having kind of really like, I think of it as front of house, direct connections with service providers on a daily basis, facilitating referrals and placement to any and all available housing resources that go through the coordinated entry system. The veterans space, that case conferencing still continues on a weekly cadence, and we work very closely with our partners at KCVP at King County and the VA themselves to kind of operate and lead that case conferencing space. We had a new coordinated entry manager hired just back in September, and that is myself. And we are currently hiring for another program coordinator position to kind of come in and help provide with some of that leadership project management for some of the initiatives we're looking to work on in 2025. Next slide, please, Alex. Something that we're working on internally here across different divisions within the KCRHA is looking at the access and engagement piece of coordinated entry. So as we all know, coordinated entry, HUD says the core tenets of it are access, assessment, prioritization, and referral. So what we are looking at is really, how are folks getting access to the coordinated entry system? What are the front doors, and how can we better leverage our teams here internally at the RHA to kind of really make it so there's no wrong front door to the coordinated entry system? As we all know, there are a lot of non-traditional homeless service providers, non-CoC funded providers who don't necessarily have a built-in kind of systemic connection to maybe getting HMIS access or working with coordinated entry in the past. Something that our team and other teams here at the RHA have seen and heard about over the last couple of years is places like food banks, libraries, clinical service providers that are usually not traditionally homeless services providers, but as we know, homelessness doesn't obey or operate on the same types of categories and silos that our systems sometimes operate with. So there are people who are experiencing homelessness and are seeking assistance with getting connected to coordinated entry and housing resources. And we have some of these service providers coming to us saying, how do we get connected? How can we be in better touch with your system? So we're working really closely with our community impact team, our HMIS lead team to kind of look at and get creative of different ways of really making it so that there's no, like I said, no wrong front door for people when they're going into those places like food banks or different clinical service providers, and they're saying, I want to get connected to coordinated entry, but the folks working on those teams have reliable communication systems and devices so that they can get in touch either with us or with other providers who do already work really closely with us. So as we continue that work largely with the community impact team, we will keep in very close communication with the coordinated entry committee, as that committee's work continues to talk about how we can take the ideas and the systems that we're developing internally and bring those to bear for like policy incubation and ultimately hopefully things for you as the CoC to vote on, and help us steward and bring forward. Next slide, please. So again, I already talked to you all a little bit about the coordinated entry committee. I've been working with them since September. And really, like I said, I won't take too long here. Just like I said, working on that strategic policy plan for 2025, starting with really looking at what are the committee's values and goals, and then how do we achieve those goals. And starting with, the things that I've asked from the committee over the last couple of meetings is to hear from them, what are the different areas that they'd like to see transformed and improved within coordinated entry so that we can really start from those places and get to work on them. Next slide, please. For community engagement, I think the biggest goal and initiative that I had coming into this position is looking again at what community engagement looks like for coordinated entry. A little bit of background about myself. Before I came to work at KCRHA, I worked in the indirect service at the Downtown Emergency Services Center for a long time in both permanent supportive housing and also emergency shelter and housing navigation. So I was closely involved with coordinated entry, single adults case conferencing as a provider in the past. And so I have personal experience and professional experience with different versions of what community engagement has looked like with coordinated entry. And I think that, you know, that's something that I'm really excited to get into and really go back to establishing some community-led leadership teams for those subpopulation groups, bringing the providers who are actually providing the navigation services, outreach services, day centers, shelters, permanent supportive housing providers to the table. You know, their leaders and staff people who are the ones, you know, doing the work on the ground to come and say, we want to bring you to the table so that we can talk and hear directly from you in an organized and strategic kind of fashion about how do we work together? Because really, you know, this is your and their coordinated entry system. The way our team thinks of it is that we're a steward. You know, we are working at the service to operate something that doesn't really belong to us. It belongs to the community, you know, and it belongs to the people who are experiencing homelessness. So we're really wanting to do this community engagement, bring different stakeholders to the table, and kind of get that going more formally. So that's kind of my biggest goal for 2025. Next slide, please.
So we can't see it, but they're going like for fun.
Oh. Okay, a little chat about live inventory. I'll keep it brief and then I can, you know, pass it off to Leah as well. But the live inventory is really a huge, massive project. It's something that, you know, we're really excited about. I think and hope all of you are excited about it too. It's major insofar as that, you know, one of the biggest, I would say, pain points in the coordinated entry system right now is with providers who are seeking to house their folks. You know, the amount of information they can have about the housing that's available to their clients, the amount of information that we have from providers about how many units they have open that we can really match and send referrals to is, before something like live inventory, was foggy at best. It relies heavily upon conversations that happen in emails, you know, or different one-off kinds of conversations. And now with this live inventory, it's really exciting that, you know, we in HMIS know in real time when units of housing are open and available to people. And so that helps us be in a position where we can support providers more fully and completely in supporting them with what they need in order to get those units to a place where we can fill them, where we can go to the emergency services and navigation community and say, we know exactly what is, you know, available and ready for you, and we can make these matches more smoothly. Another really exciting thing about this too, with access to that level of information, kind of what's available when, how long units are staying open for, how long it's taking to fill the units. We'll be able to work with our community impact team to hopefully get some kind of more enhanced and better dashboards available to the community so that this type of information is even more transparent and readily available for you all as well. So I don't know, Lee, I'll pass it off to you if there's anything else that you want to say about live inventory and those topics too.
Yeah, hi, everybody. Leah Fafori. I'm the program coordinator on coordinated entry. Just wanted to piggyback off that and uplift that, you know, it's been a multiple year project to get to this point. I would say we're still at the very beginning of launching this new system. We've been focused on ensuring that all of the coordinated entry programs and resources have been configured correctly first, ensuring that all of those units are assigned correctly and there's greater monitoring of those resources, because as the coordinated entry system, we are looking at those resources more frequently. So I would say we're at the point where all of our providers are now engaging in the new system with coordinated entry in particular. I think the next step of this, the next phase, is to look at all of the non-coordinated entry participating units, because we know more than half of our CoC like housing resources are outside of the coordinated entry system. And so turning our attention there as well to ensure that all across the entire system, we are utilizing this new resource and this new system of live inventory. Other things that we are working on in relation to live inventory as well is starting to come out with some monitoring dashboards that will be used for contract monitors for our team to be able to monitor that the system is functioning as expected. And our hope and goal is that in the coming years, I'm talking very big scope, but in the coming years that we can also look at iterating on live inventory. When we launched, we got a lot of feedback from providers, as was expected with any new system that rolls out, and we're already identifying ways that we can improve the system and streamline the processes for housing providers to manage their inventory. So we're looking forward to, as we get settled into this version of live inventory, also what does it look like to iterate on this system and continuously improve upon it.
Thanks, Leah. Yeah, Alex, you can go to the next slide. I think the next slide might, yeah, so any questions about any of the updates, live inventory in particular? We're ready. Yes.
So exactly how do the non-CE resources give you data?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, so one thing that I wanted to say too, just like a quick, just like what Leah was saying when she said about, like, obviously the non-CE participating resources are the programs and units that are funded at, like, outside of the CoC, of course, because all of the CoC funded units must participate in the coordinated entry system. So it's the non-CoC funded. I'll let you kind of piggyback off this if there's something that I'm incomplete with on this. But our community impact team, as the HMIS lead in the region, collects that information from the providers. You know, even though they don't need to participate in coordinated entry, we still have requested and asked that all of their programs are in HMIS so that they can count for the homeless inventory. And so the community impact team is the one working with those teams and providers to say, this isn't for the purpose of putting your units through the coordinated entry system. That's something that, as the HMIS lead and the team responsible for doing the homeless inventory count, kind of have to collect that information, and they do so directly from the providers.
So if the ones who are not funded by the CoC wanted to participate, what would it cost them to participate in the system?
That's a great question. I don't know how much it would cost for them. Off the top of my, I don't think it would necessarily cost them anything. I don't think it would cost any money. I think it's more just you know, a willingness if they would be wanting to have their resources go through the coordinated entry system. Yeah, there's no additional cost for that, no.
Thank you.
Yep.
And Dorsal has his hand up.
Yes, there was a question from another board member that I'm also interested in, but you mentioned specific populations, but what about the individuals or the families that don't necessarily fit into those populations, families with adult disabled children or somebody who has a non-related caregiver that needs housing?
Yeah, that's a great question, Dorsal. I think, you know, how we operate around that mostly right now is working with, you know, the program performance teams here, and also to working with all the providers to kind of say, realistically, these are the resources that are available to folks in the coordinated entry system right now. That's why the critical importance of case conferencing. So typically it's kind of like the populations like youth and young adult and family are kind of more specifically and highly tailored with like more robust definitions of kind of like, are you in a certain age range Or do you have, you know, children of dependent age and you have 51% or more custody? That's when you're going to be eligible either for a family resource or, you know, a youth or young adult resource. The single adult space is kind of where you have some more flexibility to kind of get creative when we have kind of different types of households come up like that. The resources are very rare and few and far between where you have providers who are able to serve households larger than one. Many of the units that are available in the single adult space are studio or, you know, single room occupancy units that have a max household of one. But any and all providers that we're, you know, in touch with through the coordinated entry system that have units that go through coordinated entry that are able to accommodate households larger than just one is usually where we'll work with the providers in case conferencing who are working with those households of different, you know, who present or like look differently than those standard types to say, here's a 1-bedroom unit that has like a max household of 2. So if there's someone with, you know, a child older, you know, than 18 years old, but needs live-in care, then hey, let's keep you on the lookout for a unit that would be able to support both of you. And then also, you know, in case conferencing, having those conversations where they can get connected to, you know, DSHS and the supports that they need in order to get paid for and like provide that live-in care, you know. So a lot of in case conferencing, a lot of conversation. And even though, you know, we don't have all the answers through coordinated entry because we're limited on which resources we're able to actually refer people to, really, you know, leveraging the community and all of the collective knowledge that the community has to think of creative solutions for those other kind of more challenging situations.
Thank you. And kind of, I have another question based off of something that you mentioned. So you talked about unit sizes and aligning that with households. One of the things that I've been hearing is potentially one of the challenges we have right now with people exiting the homeless system is that we have empty units, but the unit size does not align with the household need. And so I'm wondering, as you all are case conferencing, are you all collecting kind of the data for like how long like a family with 8 kids is having to wait for placement versus a family with 2 kids, and trying to align that with some of the comprehensive planning work to ensure that we have the unit sizes that we need over the next 20 years for the population that we're seeing, if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. I think, you know, the way that I would think about that is as we look, part of the 5-year plan that we have at KCRHA is really focused on developing the different by name lists. And when we're talking about BNLs, you know, kind of really thinking about them as analytical and kind of like operational, you know, lists that aren't just purely a rostered number of names of all the people who are enrolled in the coordinated entry system, but developing methodologies and algorithms of trying to say, use the data that we have in HMIS to kind of strategically plan for exactly what you're talking about, you know, looking at and locating, because another area that comes up in huge is a lot of the resources that the CoC funds, particularly in the single adult space, are units like single room occupancy units for people of a particular gender and maybe even a particular age. You know, if those types of units are really being, if we're finding that those are difficult to fill, how can we leverage something like a by name list to then say, okay, well then who are the people in our community who are 55 and up, you know, would accept, indicate that they would love to live in a more communal style living, which SRO buildings tend to be, and have all their documents prepared, you know, for the housing application process and are ready to go. So I think that kind of falls into the 5-year plan by name list conversation.
Great. Are there any other questions for Tom or Leah? And hi, Leah. Thanks for coming today.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, Amaya.
Yeah, I couldn't put anything in the Q&A, I think, because I'm a panelist, but I was just wondering, Do the units under CE have to report a vacant or filled unit within a certain time? Like, how are we ensuring that the list is actually live and updated?
Yeah, so with the transition to live inventory, this has actually given us far greater insight into like a more real-time indication of our inventory and like what is the capacity of the system, because clients exit from the program is directly tied to a specific unit. And so once that unit is cleared, the client is exited for whatever that reason is, that unit is going to automatically come available into the system. And we are also able to monitor and see all of the resources that are offline for whatever reason, why they're being held offline, whether it's like turnover or remediation or, you know, repairs that need to be done. So we are getting far greater insight into the system. And additionally, I mentioned this, but just to bring up again, we are developing some monitoring dashboards that are going to allow for both the coordinated entry team as well as the contract monitors to be able to monitor more closely and kind of see how the system is functioning and where those units are at.
Great. Thanks for that. Did you have any follow-up questions, Amaya? No? Okay. Are there any further questions for Leah or Tom?
Chair, there is one in the Q&A from member Sawicki stating, how does one get case conferenced? I've been in CE for 2 years now, and I have never been case conference. How do I request this?
Yeah, Christina, thank you for asking that question. The way that I would say for you, if you would like to be, you know, your case to be discussed in case conferencing for coordinated entry, is to connect with any service provider that you're working with, that is, you know, that has HMIS access and has coordinated entry assessors on their team. They are the teams that know to attend, you know, the different subpopulation case conferencing, and would be your, you know, advocate or support, you know, for bringing your case to case conferencing.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. Don't think I see any other hands, and I really appreciate this in-depth explanation of the coordinated entry committee, as well as the live inventory count, and just the work that you're doing as a whole. Seems like it's a lot of work. So I appreciate all of the, I'm sure late nights, you guys are staying up doing all this work, it seems. So I really appreciate all that. Yeah, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Leah. And I think we're gonna move into our next agenda item. And
Thank you all. It was nice to be with you, and I look forward to working with you going forward in the future. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Yeah. Come back anytime, guys.
Come back next month.
Yes.
So we'll see them in a month. No, I'm just kidding. So go ahead, and I think I'm going to hand it over to Dorsal for the next portion of the agenda, so we can give some context on what we're doing as an exercise here.
Yes, thank you, Ruby. This will be at least my first time presenting to you all, but Ruby and I will be splitting it. So at least save the tomatoes until another day. So really quickly, though, it's hard to believe, but we are already at the end of 2024. This is the last CoC board meeting of the month, and we are getting ready to move into 2025 very quickly. 2025 is going to be an intense year. There's going to be a lot for us to do here on the CoC board and supporting the providers and the community over the next year. And so, you know, before transitioning into the new year, it's always been a practice of mine to kind of go back and reflect on the year that we had before. But I do want to provide two kind of elements of context before we move into the discussion. The first being that Ruby and I have a strong commitment to not make any changes without the full board being involved. And so we're going to talk today potentially about things that we want to do in 2025 or things we want to improve on. But I want to be very clear that change takes time. And it will take some time because before we make any changes, we're always going to bring them here and we're always going to discuss them first. And so that's just a very strong, firm commitment that Ruby and I have, and we'll keep modeling and moving into 2025. The other thing that I would say is that it's incredibly important when trying to improve, to be honest, both with yourself and with others. But it's also important to keep in mind that when we are seeking improvement, the most powerful statement to improve is I will or I should. The next most powerful statement is we should or we could. The weakest form of improvement, you should or you could. If I say I should go to the gym, that's a strong commitment. If I say we should go to the gym, that's a good commitment. If I say you should go to the gym, you should probably slap me, because why am I telling you to go to the gym? And so as we think and we talk, that's just something that I want to keep in mind. And as I pull up the slides, I'd like to model that a little bit. So the first question that we will be discussing, and I'm going to try and zoom in because it won't be a normal presentation, because I want to try and capture what's being said in real time so that we ensure that we capture what everyone is, too far. What everyone is really trying to mean and what we're really trying to say. But a little bit earlier today, I was in a training with someone from Kentucky. And that nonprofit in Kentucky spent 10 minutes of their presentation raving about the Kentucky CoC board and how essential that the CoC board partnership had been to the development of their models, to the support that they had, and even spoke to partnering with the CoC board for the adjoining state. And so I think as your co-chair, I could do more to create an environment where we are able to provide, is it not going to let me edit? Where we are able to provide more connection, more opportunity to hear from and share expertise with the actual service providers that we are in collaboration with. And at this point, I just want to open it up and see if there are other people that have things that they would like to share on what we as a CoC board, with what we have in control, because there's a lot that needs fixing, but we can only fix what we can fix. But yeah, what are some of the things that we can improve on moving into 2025?
I'll go ahead and jump in. So I think, let's see, I think that there's room and space for like being like me personally, I think I could be more prepared, right? I could be more prepared for each meeting. I think that would be a beneficial. So that's a me personal commitment.
Not just you, I could be.
Well, I'm not going to say that. I'll say I can, and you can say the we if you want.
Amaya?
I know I could definitely show up more. I feel like people need to be here to do the work to actually make change happen. So.
And feel free to correct me if I am not capturing the intent of what you are saying.
I just want to second what she said because I relate to that comment.
This is Elizabeth. I intend to connect more with the providers on the east side and also try to connect more with some of the end users on the east side to make sure that what is intended has the intended impact.
And that is definitely a we, because I honestly know very little about East Side, which is that's not fair to East King County.
Can I ask, this is Amy, what end users means?
Those are the people who are served by the service providers. The people for whom we're doing this work, essentially.
Thank you.
Yes.
It's a data term.
And great clarification. Yes. Are there any other things that I'll throw out one. I think, and I'm going to do this as a we, because I think we can come up with a system to improve the way we're sharing resources, trainings, fact sheets, worksheets, books, booklets, those types of things. Anything that we can put in our tool belt that makes us better at the people, better at what we're doing for the people we serve. All right. Oh, there's a Q&A. Let me make sure that's not. Oh. We need to be involved in veteran homelessness too, not, yes. Oh, I'm doing something really weird with the transcription now. So yes, as a military veteran, I will definitely selfishly say that that is a we for me too.
I'd like to hop in again and say that we can, reach out to various organizations and maybe, this kind of piggybacking off the training portion. Maybe we can reach out and, make sure that we are offering those same resources to the continuum as a whole, and making a more centralized area for resources like that. Maybe we could do that.
I definitely love that. All right, I'm gonna do one last call, but I think there's some really great things on here and some things. Oh, Dr. Patricia.
This is the I and a we statement as a whole. We would like to, how can I build our rapport and communication and collaboration with our public and or board members outside of, not the board members, the members and our community shareholders, hearing more of their voice and including more of their voice in the processes and what we're doing throughout the year. As along with lived experience, we need to hear and include their voices. And one point I want to reference, this may be another one, is during the public comment, to make sure that when we have public comment that we do follow through with the respond and not just hear the public comment, but also that was fair. Thank you for your comment, but then come back later with some type of response. Awesome. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you. Those are great. Tamara, you got your hand up.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this is that we could have or should do, but I think we should be bolder and braver in how we resist oppression and think outside the box and stop defaulting to like conventional methods of like collecting data and stop like defaulting to status quo like interventions that have been prescriptive and don't allow for innovation. I think because of where we're at politically, it is incumbent upon us as a community to mobilize and get organized and resist oppression and advocate strongly for housing justice by rallying around the central principle that we are all hardwired to pursue well-being. That's the lasting thing I want to say.
Thank you. All right. I will pause one more time, but this is a really great list. Make sure there's no more Q&A as well. All right. And I'm going to turn it over to Ruby now for our next question.
Yes, and thank you for that. Yeah, so the next question is just surrounding, you know, what things we accomplished this year. You know, what successes did you see? What kinds of, what kind of work were you proud of? And various other exciting things that we have done. Like, I'll start us out, for instance. I think it's pretty cool that we were able to have, you know, a youth convening and be involved with the Youth Action Board more this year. Hearing from, like I said earlier, being really inspired by the work that they're doing and their commitment to this work. So I'll start with the youth involvement with the board. But yeah, this could be things we voted in. This could be things that we voted on. This could be, you know, regarding full attendance, perhaps, something like that. Just throwing it out there. So feel free to come off mute.
This is Amy. Mine's kind of corny. I mean, I'm not trying to down myself or downplay any of our roles, but I think that when I was able to especially meet with you and Dorsal, I think it solidified the importance and my place or role in this board. And so I'm grateful for that. And so I think just for having the bravery or trying something different and finding where I fit in. So yeah, I think that every single one of us who ran for a position and threw something together, whether we spoke out loud or you know, wrote something up, I think that it took a lot of courage, and I'm grateful for that, and I hope that we continue to carry that on because I think the people we're supporting, that's important, to be brave and speak our truths.
Yes, I love that. Thank you for highlighting that. I think that kind of ties into, you know, the board election process. We did have board elections this year, you know, with the CoC membership, and that's a partnership between the membership and us. So sorry to interject, but I built off of that.
I'd like to say that I appreciated the work that was done before I came on to create the criteria for the applications that we had to score. It was clear that a lot of thought had gone into that. Thank you.
Is that in regards to the NOFO process, Elizabeth?
Yes, it was.
Oh, thank you. Okay. Anybody else have any successes they'd like to highlight? Don't make me say, oh, there it goes.
Oh, okay. The one thing I would add is we did have a successful NOFO application. Correct me, Alex or Catherine, if I'm wrong, but everything was submitted on time, complete, and good to go.
It was submitted on time, complete, and early. Yes,
Kelsey?
so yeah, very successful.
All right. I think that might be the last.
No, actually, Dorsal, this is Jaja. I would like to say, I would like us to continue to allow grace to happen within the board. I like to continue that.
Yeah.
because I appreciate the grace that was given me.
Jaja, no problem at all. We appreciate you being here and we are glad to have you as much as we can. So thank you so much. Is there any other additions? We got the one from Victor is also another great experience with participating. So I think there might be a few in the chat. Let me grab this. The co-facilitator with Corporation for, or CSH, excuse me, staff in partnership with members and CoC board members. And I believe that's referring to the charter revision work group. And then we also had another comment from Victor Liu, which says also another great experience was participating as a rater for both the NOFO application and the South King County outreach application. And yeah, those are also great additions, was the involvement of the board, you know, in the NOFO work group, in the NOFO rating and ranking and all of that. And then also the South King County outreach application, is that for this, was that for severe weather or am I thinking of a different application?
Yes, it's for severe weather and the final list will be announced next week. That's all I can say.
Oh, cool. Great. Thank you for that update. Yeah, those are great additions. Thanks, Victor. That was on my list too. Not the South King County, but the charter revision. Okay. Are there any other ones? Please come off mute if you have anything to add.
Yes, this is Patricia. One thing we did, I'm not sure if we actually voted, but we were involved in some of the process when we hired the new King County. What's her name? Is she the director or the CEO?
CEO, Dr. Kennison?
Yes. I remember, yes, at the city hall. We were, that was, yeah, collaboration there. And I think also the other one I'm remembering when they were doing the interim voting for the interim CEO. I'm trying to remember, yes, that during that process.
All right, we got some music going on and love that. Is there anybody else that would like to add some stuff? Because I do have a couple rapid fire points that you don't have to type up fully, Dorsal, because I think it's important to highlight all the good work that we've done as a board. And if you have anything to add, please feel free to hop off mute and just interrupt me. So we did the point time count too, right? In partnership with the King County Regional Homelessness Authority, the System Performance Committee was able to give input on where the hub locations were. We had a board member involved in the actual pick count. And if they want to talk about that experience, they can. But we also had, you know, like with the sheltered and the unsheltered population, with the point in time count, we did a method where we had, you know, it's a new data, or not a new data, it's the new way of counting that we had done here, which was a respondent driven sampling. And so we got a, you know, higher number than maybe people were looking to see, but I think that that encourages the fact that we are looking to find the people that haven't been, you know, in the system prior, and just trying to evaluate the actual numbers that were to actually have closer numbers to the reflection of what we're seeing as people experiencing homelessness. And so that's a big one. We also had our co-chair elections, right? That was fun. Shameless self-promotion. We also did, you know, one in-person convening where we were, we were electing board members. We also had nominated members with lived experience to the governing and the implementation board. We've had full attendance a few times. We also been using that parking lot for our follow-ups to the questions that people are asking during the public comment portion. And then the last thing I would say is we already talked about that NOFO work group, but we did have some trainings as well that were important. So we had an all-in presentation from the U.S. Interagency on Homelessness, which is a federal organization. We also had the Seattle Office of Civil Rights give a fair housing presentation, and the resources and responses to domestic violence and sexual violence were New Beginnings and Coalition Ending, Gender-Based Violence, that's what it was. They did a presentation for us as well at our convening with the Civil Rights Fair Housing presentation. And if there's anything I missed, please feel free to add it, but I think that's a lot. That's like a lot of stuff that we did. And so I just wanted to kind of highlight how important the work that we're doing is, and we are making, progress and getting some accomplishments underneath our belt here. So, and we got to say that that's all in partnership with the King County Regional Homelessness Authority. That's my TED Talks. Thank you.
Limmer has her hand up.
Yeah, one thing I would like to add as an aspiration or goal is to incorporate, or what I like to term network weave. I like to weave trauma-informed communication and restorative justice into our practices, because I've been on this board now for 4.5 years, and I've seen conflict after conflict, and I think a lot of that has to do around communication and how we our intonation and like how our body language and things. How can we get better at communicating so that there is fewer conflicts and there's increased transparency, and we're free to like ask questions and question like each other, but without getting so amped up that it shuts down communication. It shuts down, it derails the meeting, but in a different way than I'm used to, which has always been in the past chaos and madness. So yeah, how can we do more trauma-informed care for each other and ourselves?
Yeah, we just got something from Victor in the chat. Give me 1 second to get there. Yes, and he wanted to highlight that the YAB convening in-person meeting was very inspiring and uplifting. And he also wanted to, I believe, the backup Tamara and the support having non-combative communication, but foster safe spaces with compassion. Exactly. So, kind of speaking to like, that grace that Jaja was speaking to. But I hear you, Tamara. I think that there's definitely always room for more effective communication between, anybody really. And I think that as long as we keep centering that and, trying to foster that safe space and with compassion is a great way to amplify the work that we need to do in partnership. So thank you so much for bringing that up.
Also, along that line, I'd like to say that we could have a training in nonviolent communication for the board, a board training on that, so people could practice and understand what that looks like in real time.
And great. So I think that we're getting to about a couple minutes left on our agenda. So I just wanted to make sure that okay, perfect. Thank you.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that I think it would be really great as a YAB member to connect more with the community, especially community that maybe is slipping through the cracks, and maybe get a better idea of what those people need to get connected to the resources they need. So going out and actually going onto the street and asking young people who are experiencing homelessness that aren't at drop-in centers what they need to get on their feet, what they need to get stable housing. I really want to be able to connect more with the people that maybe the system doesn't even know are out there.
That's great. Thank you. We really appreciate that. Maybe transportation too, right? To the convening. Great. So I just wanted to also highlight that there's, a ton of other work that was done in partnership with King County Regional Homelessness Authority that we probably haven't touched on. We also know that the KCRHA has done some done successes this year as well and have some accomplishments. So I have, offered and invited the KCRHA to do a presentation on their successes and accomplishments from this year if they would like to present on that. But I really appreciate everyone taking the time to reflect with the work that we've done internally as a board. It's been, really, really insightful to be able to sit down one-on-one with you guys. And so taking the time out of your busy schedules to meet with myself and Dorsal has been really inspiring and helpful for us to continue the work that we are trying to do every day. And so I look forward to 2025. How about you, Dorsal?
Absolutely. It's going to be a good year. We're going to make it a good year.
Yeah, regardless of the administration. I'm just kidding. Sorry, can't say that. My bad. I apologize. So the next thing that we're supposed to go into is the community updates portion. I'm so sorry about that. The community updates portion. And so I know that we had 2 updates for sure. One was Tamara, if she wanted to give that update on that lived experience thing she was telling us about earlier, that conference. And then also, I think it was Elizabeth that had an update as well.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I just wanted to touch on the lived experience leadership conference. That was the second time I've ever presented to a national, and it was a small core group, but this is the second time I've been invited to present to a national audience on lived experience and what healing looks like for me personally, and also what it could look like for our communities. The possibility and the potential of applying a well-being analysis. And I'm going to talk about that until I'm blue in the face, but applying well-being and what that means subjectively to each person, each community, each system, what that looks like and how that can transform our reality and our communities to be more kind and compassionate and empathetic and loving, because we're going to really need to pull together. I'm not joking. I'm being very serious here. We need to organize and we need to support each other thoroughly if we want to survive this. So that's all I wanted to say. And lived experience, woohoo!
That's awesome, Tamara. Thank you. Elizabeth, did you have an update as well?
Yes, I did. I went out today to Reclaim in Snoqualmie and spoke with Jennifer Kirk, the CEO there. She wanted to bring to the attention of the CoC that there's $30,000 total available for severe weather expenses for the entire east side, and that goes very quickly when they have to have extra staff in order to do overnight shelter. On the whole east side, most of what was available for severe weather shelter was only open during the day. I tried to connect with Sophia Way, which had overnight availability. One of the numbers they have on the KCRHA list is a bad number. The second number, the mailbox is full and it's not taking any messages. So that's an obstacle for people. The porch light said they were full, but they didn't have to turn anyone away. And it was possible to reach them by phone. That's in Bellevue. And then Friends of Youth, they were unable to answer the phone at first due to high volume of calls. Oh no, I'm sorry. That was the Catholic Community Services New Bethlehem shelter, the one that serves families with children. So I was never able to get in touch with them. Friends of Youth said they were maxed out most nights. They tried to deal with the overflow by connecting with a non-emergency number for the police in Kirkland that was supposed to have vouchers. It took 2 to 3 hours to connect with that phone number for Kirkland for vouchers because no one was sure whose responsibility it was to provide the vouchers. So there's room for improvement out there, but that's my report on the severe weather shelters. I did go to the one that was open during the day in Issaquah when we had the power outage, and there were over 200 people at a single time in that senior center. There weren't enough power outlets for everybody who wanted to charge their phone and so on. So we could use more. Thank you.
I'd like to piggyback that. And Elizabeth, thank you for bringing that up because in the universe that I work in, DSHS actually here in the headquarters area. So I work out of Tumwater. So I'm close to where most of the headquarters for DSHS are. And what we put out for weather advisory is that they had warming stations and charging stations as well. But we found that most of them are only open from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. People were out of power for up to 5 days. I mean, including these adult family homes. You know, people have breathing equipment or, you know, all of these things. Another thing that happened is that 211 stopped working. And that was what they gave us to use for reference. So that's also alarming. And we are working on reporting that to the people that we have that do disaster planning and that type of thing at ALTSA. So, but I love that you mentioned it, Elizabeth. Thank you for being in the know with that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Amy, too. I didn't know 211 was out. Elizabeth, we're running out. I have a quick follow-up question. So you quoted $30,000. Is that the entire yearly budget for severe weather shelter in Eastside King County, or is that like the season's budget?
That is my understanding that it was for the entire year. But you'd have to check with Jennifer Kirk. She just wrote a note for me to share with you.
It's amazing that they're able to do what they're doing with such limited funding.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate those updates from both Elizabeth, Amy, and also Tamara. I want to quickly do just the next meeting dates that we've got. We didn't mention that the System Performance Committee is actually going to be next Wednesday instead of the third Wednesday of the month, just due to the holidays and not wanting to cram too much into a week. So because we, again, I mentioned that we didn't have our November meeting, the December meeting will have some from November and a little bit new stuff. So please come from 2 to 4 p.m. at the link is on the website at kcrha.org. And then also the next Continuum of Care board meeting is on a weird day as well. It's not going to be on the 1st of January. It's going to be on the 8th of January. And so we will definitely see that. The other thing was I just wanted to highlight that there's going to be a vigil on Saturday, December 21st for the 2024 outdoor or homeless deaths. And so it's going to be a candlelight vigil at Westlake Park, 4th and Pine from 5 to 6 p.m. And I encourage all of those that are interested in going. It's a really great experience to be standing in solace with other people that are doing the work as well. And December 21st is also, I believe, the National Coalition on Homelessness designates it as the National Homeless Persons Memorial Day. So this is a big one. And I would encourage anybody who's an advocate to go. Last thing was, Catherine, did you, we totally didn't do an update on the convening. Did you want to do a quick update on that and then we can adjourn?
Sure. I'm waiting for a couple more responses to the doodle poll that was sent out. So as soon as everybody has responded to that, we should have a date. I'll reach out to everybody that I sent the doodle poll to and talk about which was selected, which date and time was selected. And then we'll get the convening rescheduled.
Great.
And I did send out an email to everybody who registered for the convening, letting them know that we were working on this and thank you for their patience. So we're almost
Great.
there.
Awesome. That's great. And I would just wanted to let everyone know that we're not out of, we've done all the trainings and we still met the 2 convening requirement. Great. Thank you, Catherine.
Of course.
All right, Dorsal, can I hand it over to you to end the meeting?
We will go ahead and adjourn the meeting at 4 p.m. Have a wonderful rest of the month, and I look forward to seeing you all in 2025.
Enjoy the week.
Everyone.
Bye-bye.
Merry Christmas and Happy
year.
New Year, guys.
See you next year. One. The hypothermia this week.
This week. I was out at 3 a.m. trying to get the cat in. It was cold.
It was